Srixon are probably one of the most underrated, if not the most underrated brand in golf today. And the reason for that is because they don't spend millions of pounds on player endorsements. But is it a brand that you should be looking into? Today, I'm going to test the irons, the new Zx7 irons in the simulator, and find out if these are an iron that you should be thinking about playing in the future. Now, I've always been a fan of Srixons, and every time I've hit one, I've never played them, but every time I've hit one, I've always thought that the irons were really soft, and that's because they're made from Japanese steel, basically. And Japanese steel is always renowned for being a soft feeling iron. Whether it's Srixon, Miura, Orca, all of them are renowned for having soft feeling irons. So is the Zx7 any different? Now today I'm going to go in the simulator, test it out, tell you what I think of it. The numbers I get are completely irrelevant because they're relevant to me. But what I will say, price wise, 5 to pitching wedge, the ZX7s come in at $899. So they're not cheap, but they're not like up there with the expensive brands. Now shaft wise for these irons, you get everything from the low launching, low spinning Project X 6.5 LZs, all the way to the NS Pro Neos that are a lighter shaft, higher launching shaft, and then everything in between like the NS Pro Modus 120s. So there's a great deal of shafts in there. Now some of these are upcharged shafts, and they vary from anything from £3 per shaft up to £15 per shaft. So when you are being fitted, if budget is an option, then please let your fitter know so they can fit around it, because there are some upcharges. Now some fitters may soak up that upcharge, but you know, that's completely down to them. What I'm going to test today is the ZX7 in a shaft I played for a long time until I recently changed, which is the Project X 6.5, the low spin one. So what technology is in the ZX7? Well, the first thing we've got is what they call a torque cavity, and that's this little piece at the back here, and that's so the mass is distributed around the perimeter to promote a really soft feel at impact and great workability. The other thing they've got is what's called progressive grooves. Now 8 iron down to pitch and wedge have shorter, sharper grooves, and then 7 iron upwards are a little bit more spaced out. So that's to give you a little bit more spin and a little bit more feel on the shorter irons, which is what you want when you're going into greens. You want that, you want that better spin, you want the ball to be able to stop. So what they've got is those progressive grooves that will aid that when you're going into greens. They've got what's called the Tour VT sole. So if you look at the sole, and I'll do a close-up, it's slightly V-shaped on the bottom, and that is to aid going through the turf, basically. So as you impact the ball, it's to aid the club going through the turf and giving you sort of like better shots, better feel at impact. And finally, there's tungsten in the toe. There's like a little notch here. I don't know if that's to indicate where the tungsten is, but there's tungsten in the toe of the long irons and the mid irons. So that's 3 to 7 iron, and that's just to aid the MOI, to help you get the ball up in the air and give you better launch on those longer mid irons, because some people do struggle with less loft to be able to get the ball in the air. So what this tungsten weight's supposed to do is aid that launch and just make it, make them easier to hit. And then the actual body itself is a 1020 forged carbon steel, which will make it feel really soft when at impact. Lofts wise with the ZX7, the 7 iron is 32 degrees, so it is not sort of at your bottom end where you're like 27 degrees with the Maverick, up to 30, which I would class in like the power irons category. But then it's not in your blade category, which is kind of like 34 to 36. So it sits at 32 degrees, somewhere in the middle of that. So it's not too strong, but it's not on the weak side either. So it's designed for the better player, the person who has got the speed and has got the launch conditions to be able to still get it out there without the help needed from all the other technology that are put in to aid launch but bring the loft down. But there's really only one way to test these irons. And in the weather at the moment, I can't get outside to test them, so that's to get in the simulator, see how they feel, see how they sound, and see how good they are in my opinion, because that's all this is. It's just my opinion based, which I'm passing on to you. But I'm interested to hit these. They look fantastic, but do they feel fantastic? Right, so I'm just going to hit 6 shots in the simulator just to get an idea of feel, sort of distance. So as I said previously, it's a 32 degree 7 iron, so it's not like a power iron, like at 29 degrees, but it's not like 34 to 36, so it sort of sits in the middle. Like down at the ball, the offset is very, very minimal. There is next to no offset. There is a little bit, but not a great deal, which is something I quite like. And for a player's iron, it's what you'd expect to have. The top line does appear pretty thick, but it's not. It's just, it sort of looks a little bit thick compared to some of the other irons I've seen. But the head itself is quite small. It just screams player's iron. So I've got a green out there at 170, which is where I normally put one with a 7 iron. And we'll see if we can control and, you know, how far we get and how accurate we can be with them. Do love the look of this club though. Yeah, we'll take that for a first shot. 165 onto the green. Take that all day. 6,000 spin, so a good spin. Again, this is a low launch, low spin shaft, but I do produce quite a bit of loft and speed through the ball, so I need that, but there are like loads of options available. Good start, good shape, and it felt fantastic. Be interesting to see if there's any drop-offs if I just don't catch one out the middle. So that one came out the heel. Yeah, pretty heely shot that one, borderline a shank. But not a massive drop off in distance. It still sort of went 155, and on carry still came out quite fast at 110. So, you know, not a great deal of drop off considering it was borderline nearly a shank. Not one of my greatest shots that, to be honest, but a good test. That was a good strike, but I think it's going to go left. Yeah, overdrew it. So overdrew that one, but came off quite fast, good speed, spin down at 4.9, a little bit low, but again, it's a low launch shaft. I do add 500 to hitting off a mat because to what you would get on grass, but still it's about 500 revs off of where I would normally be looking, which is why it's gone 177. That was a little bit out the toe, so see what sort of drop off we get with that. So that one came out the toe and still did really well. Still travelled 160, again low on the spin, but I'd take that all day long where it landed. Try and nut one, see if we can get one right out there. No idea on distance, but on direction. But I went after that one. So you know what, with a bit better direction, these clubs can get out there. 187 carry, spin 5.3, add the 500, little bit low. But I will take that 187 with a 7 iron, and it's not even a power 7 iron either. Just a normal strike that time, not going after it to see what happens. Coming round lovely. Just long. So I'd take that. You know, the spin's a little bit down. Obviously that's scattered all over the place. So I'm just going to do 5 quick shots, normal shots, and just see what sort of dispersion I get with them, as opposed to like trying to hit it hard and stuff like that. So 5 quick shots, or I'll just speed through it and we'll see what the dispersion's like. Right, so that's 5 quick shots. Obviously, I struggle in here to aim right enough for the draw I've got, but the fact 4 of them are there, and the one I tried to aim a little bit righter to bring it in, but didn't draw it enough. So dispersion wise, you know, you take that one out that went right, they are all on top of each other. Really good control. But what about the average distance? So those last 5 shots were me trying to play playable shots, not trying to test them, trying to hit them out the toe heel, hit them as far as I can type of deal. And all in all, I'm really impressed with it. You look at the average carry, there was one there at 166, which I didn't quite get hold of properly. But you look at that 166, 176, 176, 176, 174. The consistency is there when it comes to distance. So that's what players want. What they don't want is that club that will just jump off the face. They want to be hitting an iron and knowing exactly what kind of distances they're going. And 174 to 176 over 4 shots is exactly what I would be looking for in an iron, that consistent distance. The 176 there was just a bit of a miss hit. As for dispersion, the 1661 was the one that I just put out to the right a little bit, didn't quite get the strike, so that went 8 yards to the right of target. The others went 22, 24, 30, 30, so that is an 8-yard dispersion. Now, you will think, yeah, but Lee, but you're 30 yards to the left. I know I've got a draw, and if I'm on a course, I will aim further right to bring the draw in. In a simulator, I struggle to hit it right enough because, like, your subliminal mind says aim for the centre of the screen, even though mine's offset to the right. I just can't aim right enough, but that's always been a thing for me in the simulator. So the fact that it is an 8-yard dispersion on those 4 shots, with that one where I on purpose aimed out to the right to try and bring it in, so I expected that to be a little bit further right. I'm really impressed with the consistency of this club. Really impressed with the consistency. As for backspin, yes, it's a little bit low, and arguably if I was fitting myself into these clubs, I wouldn't use that low spin in 6.5. I would try and bring that spin up a little bit more to get it kind of near the 6,000 rev mark. So, you know, for that head, that shaft isn't for me, although I've used that shaft in other heads. For that particular combination, that's not the shaft for me. So I would bring that spin up, but in turn that spin would then bring the carry down. If I could get that carry down to 165, 160 with a spin of around 6,000 revs, then that would be a perfect club, considering the consistency that that club is giving me on distance and dispersion. So in conclusion, the ZX7 for me is an absolutely fantastic iron. It is definitely a player's iron, definitely somebody who wants to get that consistent distance, consistent ball flight, consistent spin. This is up there with like what I'm using now, which is the Apex Pros, when it comes to the consistency that I'm looking for. If I was changing from the Apex Pro to this, I would have no problem whatsoever in doing so. It looks good, it feels fantastic, so soft feeling off the face, it just feels phenomenal. And with all the little bits of technology it's got in there, just to give you that aid when it comes to spin on the lower irons, it's definitely a club that I think more people should be looking at getting, instead of overlooking Srixon and going for your high marketed, high in your face brands. Go and have a look at Srixon, because I think you'll be very much surprised at just how good these irons are for such a brand that is overlooked by many people. Over the next coming weeks, I've got the full Srixon fitting kit in. I'm going to test the ZX5 irons, the hybrids, the fairway woods and the drivers, and give you a bit of an insight as to what I think of probably the most underrated brand in golf. But that's been my review of the Srixon Zx7 iron. If you are new to my channel, please consider hitting a subscribe. I do club reviews, I do course vlogs, although not many. Most of the course vlogs I do are on Dan Hendrickson's channel now. And I am doing my own personal journey, which is to get to scratch. I am a 9 handicapper. This is from a viewpoint of a 9 handicapper, and I want to get my handicap down to scratch. So I have a series called Destination Scratch on my channel, which is me documenting everything I do in order to try and get down to scratch. So if you are new, please subscribe and follow me on my journey to scratch. But otherwise, I will see you in the next video coming soon.